In a city that never forgives the forgotten, a 22-year-old homeless girl risks everything to save a stranger from the fire she didn't start. What she doesn't know is that the flames will uncover more than danger. They'll expose a truth buried deep in blood and years of silence. Some stories start with survival. This one starts with a rescue that changes everything. Before we begin, if stories of courage and second chances speak to you, tap subscribe and stay close. Because the next story might remind you that even in the dark, someone out there still believes in you. Now let us begin. They called the neighborhood the Iron District, a place where the engines never stopped growling and people learned to keep their eyes on the ground. That's where she lived. No address. No safety. Just the rhythm of machines and the promise of another night survived. She didn't have much: a tarp for a roof, a few tools, a dented locket she couldn't stop opening. But she had instincts, and a heart that still remembered kindness in a world that forgot it. The night the rain came down hard and the city lights blurred like tears, fate finally looked her way. She'd learned early that silence was safer than speech. Lillian moved through the city the way ghosts move through graveyards, softly, unseen, leaving nothing disturbed. 22 years old, and already she'd lived a dozen different lives: runaway, shelter kid, back alley mechanic, dreamer. But the name that fit best was invisible. Behind the Iron Haven Motor Club, in the narrow space where the dumpsters sat and the streetlight flickered like a bad memory, Lillian had built a world out of scraps. A cardboard wall to block the wind. A tarp to catch the rain. An old radio that played more static than song. People passed by the alley every night, brothers in black vests, engines growling like thunder, but none ever looked her way. She didn't blame them. It was easier not to see the forgotten. The nights were loud there, music, laughter, the scent of oil and whiskey. But under the noise, Lillian heard something else. Heartbeats, the small proof that life kept going even when yours felt paused. When she was little, before the foster homes blurred together, someone had told her, "You come from bikers." She didn't know if that meant family or fate. All she had left of that world was a chain around her neck, a silver locket so dented you could hardly tell it once held a picture. Inside, just a faded corner of a woman's smile. Nothing more. She would open it on the coldest nights and whisper, "Who were you?" No answer ever came. Daylight was danger, night was mercy. By dawn she'd scavenged the lots for bottles and dropped coins, then slip behind the cafe near the club to wash her face in the outdoor sink. Sometimes the waitress left her day-old bread wrapped in napkins. Kindness, she'd learned, was a rare currency. When you found it, you never wasted it. That morning, the sky hung low and gray, promising rain. She was sorting through a trash bin when a voice startled her. "Careful, sweetheart. There's glass in there." She turned sharply. An older woman, maybe late 60s, stood at the alley's mouth holding a paper bag. Her hair was silver pulled tight in a braid, eyes sharp but kind. Lillian stiffened. "I'm fine." "I don't doubt it," the woman said with a small smile. "Still, gloves help." She pulled a pair from her bag, old gardening gloves, and set them on the crate beside her. Then she turned to go. Lillian waited until she'd gone before whispering, "Thank you." If you believe even small kindness can warm the coldest place, hit that like button. Sometimes saving someone starts with noticing they exist. The next few nights, the same woman passed by. She always had something: a cup of soup, a scarf, a word. She never pried, never asked Lillian's name. Just smiled and said, "Take care of yourself, sweetheart," before disappearing into the crowd. Lillian started looking for her without meaning to. There was something familiar about her voice, something that wrapped around the edges of memory like an echo she couldn't chase. One evening, rain poured so hard it drowned the city noise. Lillian huddled under her tarp, listening to the storm hammer the metal roof above. A shadow moved at the alley entrance. "You'll drown out here," the woman called. She was soaked, clutching an umbrella uselessly against the wind. "There's room inside the laundromat. Come on." Lillian shook her head. "I'm good here." The woman sighed, stepping closer. "Stubborn. Just like," she stopped herself, then smiled sadly. "Just like someone I used to know." She set a thermos down beside Lillian. "Soup. Real hot. Don't waste it." When she left, Lillian unscrewed the lid. Chicken and rice. Warmth hit her tongue like memory. For a moment, she almost cried. The storm didn't stop. 3 nights later, the gutters overflowed, the city blinking through curtains of rain. The Iron Haven's neon sign flickered red and white, painting the wet street like spilled blood and milk. Lillian was half asleep when she heard shouting, male voices, rough, urgent. Then a crash. She peeked out. 2 men in dark coats stood near the curb, arguing beside a parked car. One held an umbrella, the other something heavier. A purse? No, a handbag. Then she saw her. The older woman. She'd been leaving the convenience store across the street. The men had followed. Now they cornered her against the car door. One snatched the bag. The other reached for her arm. "Back off," the woman barked, defiant. But the man shoved her hard. She fell, hitting the wet pavement. Lillian didn't think. Her feet were moving before fear could stop them. She burst from the alley, rain blinding her, shouting, "Hey! Leave her alone." The men turned, startled. Lillian swung the broken bottle she'd grabbed from the ground. "I said back off." One cursed and lunged. She slashed the air between them. The glass sliced his sleeve, not skin, but enough to make him stumble. The other grabbed her wrist. She kicked his knee, wrenching free. Tires screeched somewhere behind, a motorcycle roaring closer. "Police!" someone yelled from down the block. The men bolted, vanishing into the rain. Lillian dropped the bottle, shaking. The woman lay half-propped against the curb, breathing hard. "Ma'am, are you?" "I'm fine," the woman gasped, trying to stand. Lillian helped her up. Her hand was cold but strong. "You shouldn't have." "They were gonna hurt you," Lillian said. "And they could have hurt you." The woman stared at her, eyes wide as if searching for something in her face. "What's your name?" "Lillian." The woman froze. For a heartbeat, something broke open in her expression. Shock, grief, hope. Then she blinked it away. "Lillian," she repeated softly, like testing the sound. "You saved my life." Lillian shrugged. "Just did what anyone would." "Not everyone would," the woman said. "Most walk away." Sirens grew closer. The woman waved them off when paramedics tried to help, insisting she was fine. Before she climbed into the ambulance for a checkup, she pressed something into Lillian's hand, a small gold cross on a chain. "Keep it," she said. "You remind me of someone I lost a long time ago." Lillian tried to refuse. "I can't take this." "You already earned it." The woman smiled faintly. "Maybe it'll bring both of us luck." Then she was gone, taillights dissolving into rain. Lillian stood alone, clutching the cross until her knuckles ached. She didn't know why her chest hurt, maybe because no one had looked at her like that in years. Like she mattered. Back in the alley, she laid the cross beside her dented locket. 2 pieces of metal, 2 pieces of history, and somewhere between them, a story she hadn't yet remembered. If you believe no act of bravery is ever wasted, comment "I stand for the invisible." Someone needs to hear that courage still lives in quiet hearts. Across town, the storm eased. In a dark garage filled with bikes and memories, a man sat polishing chrome that didn't need shining. Rafe. Broad-shouldered, mid-40s, leather cut draped over the chair. His phone buzzed on the workbench. He almost ignored it, until he saw the caller ID. "Mom." He answered instantly. "Ma? You okay?" On the other end, a trembling laugh. "I'm fine, Rafe. But you won't believe what just happened." As she spoke, his hand stilled on the rag, jaw tightening. The words "alley, attack, saved by a girl" echoed through the static. "What girl?" he asked. "I don't know." Said her name was Lillian. The rag slipped from his hand. For a moment, the whole world went silent except for the soft hum of rain on the roof. He hadn't heard that name in 20 years. Morning came washed clean but heavy, the kind of morning that smelled like smoke even before anyone lit a match. Lillian woke to the sound of engines revving, bikers tuning up their rides in the Iron Haven lot. The sky glowed pale gold through torn tarps. Her arm still ached from where the man had grabbed her last night, but she couldn't stop replaying the look in the old woman's eyes. That flicker of recognition, that tremor in her voice when she'd said Lillian. No one had said her name like that in years. She turned the gold cross over in her fingers. It was small, plain, the kind of thing a person wore for decades. On the back, faint engraving, "To Mr. with all my love, D." She didn't know what it meant. But it felt like something meant for her, even if it wasn't. Across town, Rafe's bike cut through the morning like a black bullet. He hadn't slept. His mother's call had spun him back through time to the one name he'd buried with every other regret, Lillian. 22 years ago, her mother had vanished with a baby in her arms. He'd searched for years until the trail went cold. Some said they'd run away, others whispered worse. Eventually he'd stopped asking, stopped because the silence hurt less than hope. Now his mother said a stranger named Lillian had saved her life. He told himself it was coincidence, but the lie didn't sit right. When he pulled into his mother's driveway, she was waiting with a bruise on her cheek and stubborn light in her eyes. "Don't start," she warned before he could speak. "I told you I'm fine." Rafe kissed her forehead, jaw tight. "You could have been killed." "I wasn't," she said. "Because of her." "She didn't leave a number?" "No. Just her name. And this," she held up a locket, dented silver. "She dropped it when she helped me up. I tried to chase her, but she was gone." Rafe took the locket. The metal was warm from her palm. When he clicked it open, his heart stopped. Inside, a faded photo, his face younger, arm around a woman holding a baby. He staggered back. Where did she say she lived? In the alley behind the club. He didn't answer. Just turned, the locket still open in his hand, and walked toward the bike. If you believe some things are too powerful to be coincidences, share this story. The truth has its own way of circling back. That afternoon, the sun broke through the clouds, sharp and bright, making puddles look like mirrors. Lillian sat on a crate, sorting through a bag of broken watches she'd scavenged, fixing what she could. She liked watches, the way they could stop and still tick again if you cared enough to open them. The hum of engines grew louder, closer. Then stopped. Boot steps. She looked up and saw a man blocking the alley's entrance. Broad scar down his jaw, leather vest heavy with patches. His eyes scanned the shadows until they found her. "You Lillian?" She hesitated. "Who's asking?" "Name's Rafe." His voice was gravel but not cruel. "You helped my mother last night." She blinked. "The lady with the braid?" He nodded. "Yeah, that's her." He stepped closer, pulling something from his pocket. "You dropped this." When she saw the locket in his hand, her breath caught. "Where did you get that?" "From her," he said quietly. "You lost it." Lillian shook her head. "No. That was my mom's. She gave it to me when I was little." He studied her face then, really looked. The eyes, the jawline, something familiar yet impossible. "What was your mom's name?" Lillian hesitated. "I don't know. She died when I was small." They told me her name was Rose. Rafe's fingers tightened around the locket. Rose. The name hit him like an echo from 20 years ago. Before he could speak, the sharp scent of smoke cut through the air. Both turned toward the street. Fire. It started at the far end of the block, where a small grocery store's neon sign sparked against the power lines. Within minutes, flames licked up the walls. The wind carried heat toward the Iron Haven lot. Someone shouted, "Gas lines. Get back." Rafe ran toward the noise. Lillian hesitated only a second before following. The fire roared louder, greedy and wild. Then she saw her, the elderly woman Rafe's mother, trapped near the back door of the store. Smoke coiled around her like a living thing. "Mom!" Rafe shouted, voice raw. The crowd screamed as the windows blew out. Lillian didn't wait. She tore off her jacket, wrapped it over her mouth, and ran straight through the smoke. "Lillian!" Rafe bellowed, but she was already gone. Inside, the world was red and gray. Heat clawed at her skin. She crouched low, crawling past shelves collapsing in flame. The old woman lay near the counter, coughing, disoriented. "Hold on," Lillian rasped, pulling her arm over her shoulder. "We're getting out." The roof groaned. A beam crashed, sparks raining down. Lillian shielded the woman, forcing them toward the back. The air tasted like metal and fear. Her body screamed to stop, but she didn't. Not until daylight broke through the smoke. They stumbled out as the building exploded behind them, a wall of orange and sound. The blast threw them to the ground. Rafe was there in seconds, dragging them clear, dousing them with water from a firefighter's hose. "Mom!" he shouted, shaking her gently. "You with me?" His mother coughed weakly, eyes fluttering open. "I'm here, Rafe." Then she looked at Lillian, face streaked with soot, and whispered, "You again." Rafe turned to the girl sprawled on the asphalt, coughing hard. "You're insane," he said, voice breaking. She managed a weak smile. "Guess it runs in the family." The words froze him. Paramedics swarmed, checking vitals. Lillian tried to sit up, but her vision blurred. Someone shouted for oxygen. She felt hands lifting her, Rafe's voice somewhere close, rough but careful. "Stay with me, kid. Just breathe." The last thing she saw before darkness closed in was the gold cross glinting against the pavement beside her, the one the woman had given her days ago. Hours later, in the sterile hum of a hospital room, the monitors beeped steady and soft. Rafe sat beside two beds, his mother sleeping, Lillian pale but alive. He turned the locket in his hands, tracing the dent with his thumb. His reflection in the glass looked older than he remembered. He opened it again. The photo inside was still there. His arm around Rose. Her smile. The baby on her lap. His chest tightened. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth, it was the same face lying unconscious beside him. He swallowed hard, whispering to the empty room, "Lillian." The hospital smelled of disinfectant and rain. Outside, motorcycles idled in the parking lot like restless animals. Inside, Rafe sat unmoving, elbows on his knees, the locket glinting in his palm. He'd fought wars on the street, survived crashes that should have ended him, but nothing hit like the quiet sound of a heart monitor marking seconds beside a girl who might be his own. Every few minutes, he looked from his mother's bed to Lillian's. Same cheekbones. Same stubborn chin. Same scar, just above the brow, a tiny half-moon. Rose had had one too, from when she'd fallen off his bike laughing. He remembered the night she disappeared. He'd been too young, too wild, too proud to chase her fast enough. Regret had been his road ever since. Now fate had parked it right beside him. A nurse stepped in. "She's stable. She'll wake soon." Rafe nodded, voice gravel-low. "And my mother?" "She's already asking for coffee." The nurse smiled. "Tough lady." He almost laughed. Tough doesn't cover it. When his mother woke fully, she reached for his hand. Her skin was cool, her grip firm. You should have seen her, Rafe, she whispered. That girl ran through fire. I saw, he said softly. You owe her your life. His mother studied his face. You've been staring at her like a ghost came back. He hesitated, then opened the locket for her to see. She dropped this. The old woman gasped, covering her mouth. That's Rose's. I gave it to her when she told me she was pregnant. Rafe's throat tightened. Then it's true. She said she'd name the baby after your grandmother. Lillian. The name hung in the sterile air like a prayer finally answered. If you believe truth can sleep for decades and still wake at the right time, share this story. Timing isn't luck, it's grace waiting for courage. Hours later, Lillian stirred. Her lashes fluttered, her voice was a rasp. Where am I? In the hospital, Rafe said gently. You saved us. Her gaze drifted to the older woman in the next bed. She okay? She's fine, the woman answered herself, smiling weakly. Thanks to you. Lillian managed a smile. Glad. Rafe handed her the locket. You dropped this. She frowned, fingers tracing the metal. You keep finding me, she murmured. Maybe that's not an accident, he said. Something in his tone made her look up. Their eyes locked, brown meeting gray, recognition flickering like lightning through fog. You remind me of someone, she whispered. He swallowed. Your mother's name was Rose? Her eyes widened. How do you? Because I loved her, he said quietly. The room went silent except for the slow beep of machines. The old woman covered her mouth, tears breaking loose. Oh God. Rafe. Lillian's lips parted. Rafe? That's your name. He nodded. And you're mine. She shook her head, disbelief fighting hope. No. That's not possible. My dad, he died. He didn't, he said. He's been looking for you since the day you disappeared. Lillian turned away, overwhelmed. The monitor quickened with her heartbeat. Why now? She whispered. Why after all this time? Rafe exhaled, rough. Because I was a coward when I was young. Because I thought time would fix what only love could. And because fate's got a cruel sense of humor. His mother reached across the space between their beds, laying a trembling hand over Lillian's. Sweetheart, I thought I'd lost both of you. Your mama, she wanted to keep you safe. Lillian's shoulders shook. I used to dream about a man with a leather jacket holding me on a bike. I thought I made it up. Rafe smiled through tears he didn't hide. You didn't. That was me. She laughed once, half sob, half relief. Guess dreams have long memories. The doctor came in, cleared them for discharge in the morning. When he left, the three of them sat in quiet, watching the rain trace lines down the window. Rafe broke the silence first. You got somewhere to go? Lillian shook her head. I make do. Not anymore, he said. You come with me. She hesitated. Why? Because I missed 22 years. I'm not missing another day. His mother chuckled softly. You always did get dramatic when you meant it. Rafe grinned faintly. Guess that runs in the family too. Later that night, when both women slept, Rafe stepped into the hallway. The vending machine hummed, the fluorescent lights buzzed. He leaned against the wall, staring at the photo inside the locket one last time. He whispered to the memory of Rose, I found her, baby. She's got your fire. Outside, thunder rolled again, low and distant, not a warning this time, just applause from a sky that had seen everything come full circle. If you've ever felt the universe pause just long enough to let love catch up, comment I believe in second chances. The road back to the Iron Haven felt different now. Not louder, just heavier. Every mile hummed with things that had been unsaid for 22 years. Rafe rode ahead, the wind flattening the questions he wasn't ready to answer. Behind him, in the truck his mother insisted on driving, Lillian sat watching his taillight cut through the dusk. She still couldn't call him Dad. The word felt too big for one heartbeat. When they reached the clubhouse, the gates swung open. The lot smelled of oil, rain, and memory. The Iron Haven logo, a cross of steel wings, was painted new on the garage door. The brothers looked up from their bikes, curious. "Boss, you brought company?" one asked. Rafe killed the engine, sliding off the bike. "Family," he said. Heads turned. The brothers stared. None dared question. Inside, the clubhouse had changed. No smoke, no bottles scattered across tables. The jukebox still sat in the corner, but the pictures on the wall were new: veterans' rides, charity runs, memorials for lost friends. Lillian followed quietly, eyes tracing every scar the building carried. "Used to be chaos," Rafe said, half smiling. "Now we try to build more than we break." His mother eased into a chair, cane tapping the floor. Took him long enough to grow up. Lillian smiled. "Guess that runs in the family." They shared the kind of laugh that feels like fresh air after a storm. As night settled, the brothers trickled out until only Rafe, Lillian, and his mother remained. The fire in the old steel barrel burned low, painting the walls in gold. "I still can't believe it," the old woman murmured. "I prayed every night that you were alive." Lillian stared into the flames. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll stay a while," Rafe said. She hesitated. "I don't belong anywhere long." "You do here," he replied. "You always did." The peace didn't last. It rarely does when ghosts still owe debts. Near midnight, the roar of engines shattered the quiet. Headlights sliced across the lot. 6 bikes, dark paint, no colors. Rafe's jaw tightened. "Trouble?" Lillian asked. "Old trouble," he said, stepping forward. The lead rider killed his engine, swinging a leg over. Tattoos crawled up his neck like smoke. "Didn't think you'd still be here, Rafe." "Guess we both made bad guesses, Cole." Cole smirked. "You still owe me for the shipment you burned." 2 years, brother." "Not your brother anymore." Cole's gaze drifted toward the open doorway where Lillian stood. "Didn't know you had company. She looks too clean for this place." Rafe's hand went to his belt, resting near the pistol he'd hoped he'd never need again. "Leave her out of this." Cole laughed. "Relax, old man. I just came to collect. You pay, we leave." Rafe shook his head. "You don't collect on poison. That deal died the day you started moving kids." The smile vanished from Cole's face. "Still righteous, huh? Let's see how righteous you feel when I take something you care about." Lillian stepped forward, voice steady. "Try." Every head turned. Her eyes burned like coals, fearless. Cole tilted his head, studying her. "Who's this?" Rafe answered softly. "My daughter." Cole blinked. "Didn't know you had one." "Neither did I," Rafe said. "Till now." Cole grinned, cruel. "Then I guess you've got something to lose again." The brothers of the Iron Haven stepped from the shadows, forming a wall behind Rafe. Metal glinted under the yellow lights. "This ain't the place," Rafe warned. Cole spat on the ground. "Then make it one." Engines revved, guns lifted. Rafe looked once at Lillian. "Stay behind me." She shook her head. "Not a chance. If you believe family stands shoulder to shoulder, not front to back, comment together we fight." Engines roared like thunder trapped between brick walls. The night smelled of fuel, rain, and anger too old to name. Rafe stepped forward, gun holstered but hand ready. Cole, you don't want to do this. I already am, Cole said. His men fanned out, steel glinting in their hands. You burned a shipment that fed my crew. I lost brothers because of you. Rafe's voice stayed even. They weren't brothers when they started selling death to kids. Cole's sneer cracked into fury. You always thought you were better. Preacher with a patch. Behind Rafe, Lillian whispered, there's police a mile down the road. You could walk away. Cole looked her over again, eyes cold. You talk too much, sweetheart. Rafe moved between them. One more word and you'll regret it. The Iron Haven brothers tightened the circle. Boots scraped asphalt. The fire barrel hissed in the wind. Cole reached inside his jacket. Rafe's pistol cleared leather in the same breath. Time slowed, the kind of silence that hums before violence breaks. Lillian's voice cut through it. You said you lost brothers, Cole. Don't lose your soul too. For a heartbeat, his hand trembled. Then one of his riders barked, "Boss!" and the spell shattered. The man raised a gun. A flash, a sound that split the night. Crack. The shot went wide, burying in the clubhouse wall. Chaos erupted. Rafe fired once. Warning, not kill. The brothers moved, disciplined, pushing the invaders back toward the gate. Fists, metal, shouting. The smell of gunpowder and rain. Lillian ducked behind a bike, heart pounding. She grabbed a wrench from the ground, old instinct from fixing scraps, and swung it when a man lunged toward her. The crack of metal against bone echoed. He fell. Rafe saw her move, fear and pride twisted in his chest. That's my girl, he muttered. Cole realized the fight was slipping. Two of his men were down, the others were backing toward their bikes. He snarled, bleeding from a cut above his eye. This isn't over, Rafe, he shouted. It is if you ride now, Rafe answered. Next time, you don't walk away. Cole spat, mounted his bike, and kicked the engine to life. One by one, they peeled out into the dark, tail lights vanishing into drizzle. The lot fell silent except for the hiss of rain on metal. Lillian leaned against a bike, shaking, streaked with soot and adrenaline. Rafe walked over, holstering his weapon. You okay? She nodded slowly. You taught me to swing first. I did. Guess it's genetic. He laughed, a rough, broken sound that turned into relief. Then he pulled her into a hug so fierce it surprised them both. For the first time in years, he let himself breathe. From the doorway, Rafe's mother watched, a tear sliding down her cheek. You both have the same eyes, she whispered. Lillian pulled back, smiling through exhaustion. Guess I finally know where they came from. Rafe brushed soot from her hair. You've got your mother's heart. She looked at the brothers picking up debris, laughter already creeping back into their voices. And your world. Only the best parts, he said. The rest we'll rebuild. The fire barrel sputtered, throwing sparks that rose like stars trying to remember the sky. The rain quit just before dawn. Gray light spilled across the Iron Haven lot, turning the puddles into small mirrors that caught every dented bike, every bruise, every heartbeat that had survived the night. Lillian sat on the clubhouse steps, wrapped in a blanket. Her hands still trembled from the fight, but the fear that had once ruled her was gone. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from anything. Rafe came out carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He handed her one, then dropped onto the step beside her with the groan of a man whose bones remembered every mile. Never thought I'd see that lot go quiet again, he said. She smiled faintly. Quiet's nice. Yeah, he said, looking at her over the rim of his mug. You were good out there. I was terrified. Everybody's terrified. The brave ones move anyway. The clubhouse door opened behind them. Rafe's mother stepped out, wrapped in a shawl, hair silver in the morning light. She moved slowly, Each step measured, but her eyes were bright. "You two look like ghosts after a storm," she said. "Feels like one," Rafe answered. She sat on the other side of Lillian, taking her hand. "I dreamed of this," she whispered. "All three of us in the same sunrise." Lillian looked down. "I don't know how to be a daughter," she said softly. Rafe's mother squeezed her fingers. "You already are. You saved me. You saved him. That's family enough." Rafe nodded. "The rest we'll figure out on the ride." For a long while, none of them spoke. The sun climbed higher, turning the wet asphalt into gold. The Iron Haven brothers began drifting in one by one, nodding to Lillian with quiet respect. No jokes, no questions, just acknowledgement. She caught Rafe watching her and smiled. "Guess they know who I am now." "Yeah," he said. "And I think they like you better than me already." She laughed, the sound bright and real. "Maybe I'll take over." "Please do," he said. "I could use the rest." Later that afternoon, they rode. Not far, just down the coastal highway where the wind smelled like salt and freedom. Rafe's mother followed in the truck, waving every time they stopped. Lillian rode behind Rafe on a spare bike. Her hands gripped his jacket the way she used to grip dreams, tight enough not to lose them. He shouted over the wind, "You sure you're ready for this?" She yelled back, "Been ready my whole life." They roared past the cliffs, engines blending into one steady heartbeat. The wind tore away the last pieces of fear. She closed her eyes, and for a second she swore she heard another engine beside them, a softer sound like memory. Her mother's. By evening, they were back at the clubhouse. The brothers were fixing the fence the fight had broken. Lillian helped, hammering nails, grease streaking her cheek. Rafe leaned against a post, watching her work. "You sure you're not tired?" She wiped sweat from her forehead. "You kidding? I love this. Feels like starting over." "It is," he said. "For all of us." She looked up. "You think we deserve it? Another chance?" Rafe took a long breath. "Deserves a tricky word. Life doesn't hand out rewards. It hands out moments. What you do with them, that's the redemption." When the work was done, the three of them sat beneath the mural on the wall, a phoenix painted rising from a wheel of chrome. The old woman reached into her pocket and pulled out the small gold cross. "This belongs to you," she said to Lillian. Lillian shook her head. "No. You gave it to me once already." "I was giving it to my granddaughter," the woman said. "I just didn't know she was standing right in front of me." Lillian's eyes filled. She took the cross and fastened it around her neck, right beside the battered locket. Rafe smiled. "Now you've got all the family you can wear at once." She laughed through the tears. "Then maybe I'll never take it off." The sky bled orange as the sun dropped behind the roofs. The bikes lined up gleamed like sleeping beasts. Music drifted from the open door, soft, hopeful. Rafe rose, stretching. "You know, there's a ride next week. Charity run for the kids' shelter downtown. You in?" Lillian looked at him, then at his mother. "All of us." "All of us," he said. The old woman chuckled. "You'll have to go slow, son. Some of us prefer scenic routes." Rafe winked. "We'll ride the speed of family, slow enough not to miss the view." That night, when the lights dimmed and the world quieted, Rafe stood alone by the open gate. The moon cast silver across the lot. He pulled the locket from his pocket, opened it one last time. The old photo of Rose smiled back, edges worn smooth. He whispered, "She found her way home, Rose. We all did." He closed the locket, looked toward the clubhouse where laughter echoed faintly. The sound filled the space where regret used to live. The night finally gave way to gray. Rain had rinsed the streets clean, leaving the world smelling of metal, fuel, and the faint sweetness of second chances. Inside the Iron Haven, coffee steamed on the counter, boots dried by the door, and the silence felt different, not empty this time, just catching its breath. Lillian woke first. Every muscle ached, but her heart didn't. She slipped out to the lot where dawn mist curled around the bikes. Someone had swept away the broken glass. The place looked wounded but alive. Rafe was already there, tightening a bolt on the blue bike she'd ridden the day before. His mother watched from the porch, wrapped in her shawl, smiling like someone finally seeing the picture she'd prayed for. "You should rest," Lillian said. He grinned. "I've rested enough for one lifetime." He handed her a rag. "Help me with this. She took a hit last night." They worked in quiet rhythm. Oil cloth, and the scrape of metal filled the space where awkwardness might have lived. Every so often their hands brushed, and neither pulled away. The old woman joined them with 3 mugs. "You two look like you belong in this grease pit," she teased. "Family tradition," Rafe said. Lillian sipped her coffee. "Feels weird calling this home already." "Home's just a place that keeps letting you back in," the old woman said. Lillian nodded slowly. "Then I guess I'm home." For the first time, the word didn't scare her. By afternoon the brothers came to help rebuild. Bent fences went straight, bullet holes patched, laughter filling the cracks the gunfire left behind. A few nodded to Lillian in quiet respect. "Boss's kid's tougher than he looks," one joked. "She swings like him too," another added. She laughed until her ribs hurt. Rafe just shook his head. "Guess bravery's hereditary." The old woman watched them, eyes shining. "I haven't seen this place so full of life in years." "It's her," Rafe said softly. "She reminded us what we were fighting for." That evening, the last of the repairs were done. Rafe rolled a faded banner from the storage room, "Iron Haven Charity Run, Ride for the Forgotten." "Used to be just words," he said. "Now it means something." Lillian touched the fabric. "Maybe we should make it bigger. For the shelters, the kids, the ones like me." Rafe smiled. "Then you lead it." "Me? You earned it. You saved this family. Let's see what you can do for others." As dusk settled, they lit the fire barrel one more time. The flames cracked soft, painting their faces in gold. Lillian traced the gold cross at her neck, the locket resting against it. Rafe's mother whispered, "Your mama would have loved this view." Lillian looked up at the smoke curling into the sky. "I think she's riding it right now." Rafe swallowed hard. "She always said I'd need someone to slow me down. Guess she sent you." Lillian smiled through the ache in her chest. "Or speed you up." He laughed quietly. "Yeah, that too." Night deepened, but none of them moved to go inside. The fire burned lower, warm and steady. Lillian leaned her head on her father's shoulder. He tensed for half a second, old habits, old armor, then let it go. "I used to think forgiveness was a word people threw around to sound holy," he said. "Turns out it's a mechanic's job. You keep tightening the same bolt till it holds again." She smiled. "Guess we're good mechanics." He looked at her, eyes soft. "Yeah, the best kind." By midnight, the fire was just embers. The brothers had gone, the tools were stacked, the world finally exhaled. Only 3 people stayed, a daughter, a father, a mother who had waited half a lifetime to see them in the same light. The wind carried the smell of the highway, wet asphalt, sage, gasoline. Every breath felt like a memory that had survived the fire. Lillian whispered, "It's strange. Everything that scared me is gone, but I don't know what to do with peace." Rafe stared into the coals. "You ride with it. Peace isn't quiet, it's motion. It's every mile that doesn't run on fear." His mother smiled. "That's your father talking. He only knows wisdom if it comes with an engine." Rafe chuckled. "Guilty." The old woman excused herself, shuffling toward the house. Lillian and Rafe stayed. The silence between them had changed. It was no longer empty, just full of everything they didn't need to say out loud. "I keep thinking about that alley," Lillian said. "The night I met her. I almost ran when she talked to me. If I had." "You didn't," Rafe said. "And that's what matters." She looked at him. "What happens now?" "Now." He exhaled smoke from a cigarette he never lit. "Now we start small. Breakfast together. A roof that doesn't leak. A garage that pays bills. A ride every Sunday." She nodded slowly. "That sounds like something worth believing in." When dawn finally came, it came in gold. The mist lifted off the lot, revealing what they'd fixed: the patched fence, the new paint on the clubhouse door, the banner drying on the wall. Across the top, fresh letters read the Iron Haven family ride. Rafe's mother walked out carrying 3 helmets. "I figure if we're doing this right, we all go." Rafe grinned. "You sure your hip's up for it?" "Child, my heart's been waiting 22 years. The rest of me will keep up." Lillian laughed and slipped on her helmet. "Let's ride slow. I want to see the world I almost missed." They rolled out of the gate in single file, Rafe first, Lillian behind him, the old woman in the truck honking once for luck. The road was still damp, reflecting the morning light like a river of silver. Every curve smelled like promise. At a red light, Rafe turned his head just enough for her to hear him over the idol. "Hey, kid." "Yeah." He tapped his chest where the locket used to rest. "Your mom's riding with us." Lillian touched the cross at her neck. "I know. She's probably telling us to slow down." He laughed, and the light turned green. They rolled forward together. By late morning they stopped at the ridge that overlooked the city. Below them, the streets shimmered. Lillian took off her helmet, wind tangling her hair. "This is what she wanted for you," the old woman said softly. "A life that keeps moving." Lillian smiled. "For us." Rafe rested a hand on her shoulder. "Guess we finally caught up to fate." For a moment, all 3 stood quiet, 3 generations stitched back together by fire, fear, and forgiveness. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. They headed back toward town as the sun climbed higher. At the gate, Rafe shut off his engine and turned to his daughter. "So mechanic or rider first?" "Both," she said. "Someone's gotta keep you from blowing a gasket." He grinned. "Just like your mother." "Good." Lillian looked toward the horizon. She'd like knowing her story didn't end with loss. "It didn't," Rafe said. "It ended with you." That evening, the clubhouse lights glowed warm against the dark. Music played soft. Rafe's mother fell asleep on the couch with a blanket over her knees. Lillian stood by the door, watching the rain start again, gentle this time. Rafe joined her. "Think it'll ever stop raining on us?" She smiled. "Does it have to? Rain's proof we survived the fire." He nodded. "Then let it rain." Outside, the downpour thickened, turning the neon sign into a blur of light. But inside, warmth bloomed, coffee laughter, the low hum of engines cooling after a long ride. Lillian reached for a rag and started wiping the counter just because it felt good to keep something clean. Rafe leaned on the doorway, watching her. "You know," he said, "you're not invisible anymore." She smiled, eyes bright with tears that didn't fall. "I never was. I was just waiting for someone to see." He nodded. "Well, kid, now the whole damn world can." As the night deepened, the sound of the rain blended with the slow tick of cooling metal, like a heartbeat settling after a long run. 3 lights burned in the clubhouse windows, proof that love had stayed awake. Because this was the truth about roads: they don't end, they just turn. And somewhere beyond the next curve, family waits with the engine running. If you believe in second chances, in forgiveness that fights its way through smoke and rain, In love that keeps writing even when the world forgets the map, drop a love or write I ride for hope. Let the feed fill with light. Let someone scrolling in the dark remember that they're not alone. And that was The Lost Daughter. If this story touched you, don't let it end here. Hit that like button to help more people find it. Drop a comment. Tell me what family means to you. And if you believe kindness can still change the world. Subscribe and ride with us, because every story here reminds us. No one is ever too lost to find their way home again.